What's up, everyone? Hope you're doing good. Welcome back to the vid. And today we're going to talk about Bitcoin NFTs, which I think is something which is kind of pretty cool. And I'm really intrigued to know what they are as well. So Ben, have you minted a Bitcoin NFT?
I have not. It's to be honest, I was kind of put off by the whole thing. But I am getting more and more interested. So, um, just for the folks out there that don't know what an NFT is, I mean, do you want to speak to that at all? Like what most people would understand an NFT to be? Like, what does that even mean?
Sure. Yeah. All right. Really quick summary. So NFT stands for non-fungible token, which is basically means it's one of a kind. Like you could consider the Mona Lisa non-fungible because once it's gone, it's gone. So an NFT is like a totally absolute mega unique thing that only you can have. And it's like a digital thing of real world things, which are unique.
Yeah, cool. So, on Bitcoin, they work a bit differently. So, I'm just learning all this as well. But so okay, I'll just jump back. So originally, like the thing in Bitcoin, there's all these fights and factions within Bitcoiners about how the blockchain should be used and things like that. And it's kind of a good analogy to think of it as like a public utility. Like anyone can do whatever they want with it, and no one else can stop anyone doing anything with it. So this guy a few months came out with this new way of inscribing data onto the blockchain. And um, if I can give a little analogy, so imagine like a giant kind of pyramid block, like a brick from one of the pyramids, this giant sandstone thing. And that's like one of the blocks, right? And every 10 minutes, one of them pops along, and all these scribers start scribing transactions on the block. And after 10 minutes, it moves along, and then the next one comes along, and people start scribing. And that's the scribers are the miners, right? They're writing these things on, and you pay them, hey, write my transaction on the block, and it goes on the block. And once we move on to the new block, the old blocks can't be touched ever again. So that's kind of the analogy of what's happening. And so with
Wait, sorry,
Bitcoin
before you
and
go on, that's the analogy of blockchain technology, right? Not the
yeah, I
NFT.
guess you could
Yeah,
think of
okay,
it like
cool.
that. Yeah. So with Bitcoin NFTs, what they essentially did is like if you go up to those scribers, and because they'll just take your money, your transaction fees to inscribe your thing on the block. Okay, so your transaction, you know, 1 Bitcoin from here to there, whatever, they'll put it on there for you. Um, But what you can do now is you can essentially go up to all those inscribers and say, here's a bunch of cash. I don't want you to inscribe any transactions because I'm paying more than them. I want you to draw a big dick pic instead. And they'll be like, all right, whatever. We'll take the money, start chiseling it on. 10 minutes later, the block moves on, and that picture is there forever and no one can ever touch it. And so that is kind of what's happening with, so that's the big difference with Bitcoin NFTs is they're actually on the blockchain. The image is actually on the blockchain. So
Uh-huh.
a lot I, probably people will tear me down because my technical knowledge is pretty bad, but from how I understand it, a lot of other NFTs like on Ethereum and other chains, the actual image, the picture of the monkey or whatever, isn't actually stored on the chain itself. It's actually just a hyperlink or some kind of pointer. So that points you to some cloud or website or whatever that hosts the image.
Mm.
That's a very big difference. Like the image isn't on the actual immutable blockchain. The image, a hyperlink to the image is on the immutable blockchain, but that website might go down, that cloud server might disappear. Um, yeah, so it's kind of they're calling it, yeah, digital artifact because once you've inscribed it, that's it forevermore. You can't change it. So that idea is kind of interesting. It seems
Mm.
dumb and like that whole dick pic thing, like that's not a joke. People doing all that sort of stuff, funny photos, like someone inscribed a fart sound. And then like what's even stupider is someone else bought it for 10 Bitcoin.
Oh man, really? So
So
how does
someone
it work then with buying it? You're buying a Bitcoin block. Is that how it
No,
works?
you're not. Like how it works is, again, probably get teared down with this, but my understanding, a simple terms understanding is, you know how we talked about Satoshis, like one sat?
Uh-huh.
So 100 million Satoshis is one Bitcoin. So what they did with this setup is they gave every single Satoshi that's ever been mined ever an order. Like you were the first, you were the second, you were the third, you were the 1 billionth, 367,000th, and so on. Each one has a specific number. So each one can be individuated from the others. It can be like separated. So what you can do is in transacting that one single Satoshi, which is worth like 0.001 cents or whatever, like nothing, no amount of money, it's tiny, you can kind of jam in the data for the JPEG or the data for the fart sound or whatever. You can put that in the transaction data. And so it's just that one single Satoshi that you're buying. So that
Mm-hmm.
person who bought the fart sound, they paid 1 billion Satoshis um, to buy one special Satoshi. It's
Mm-hmm.
like having a dollar bill and drawing a dick on it and going, "Hey Dan, do you want to buy this dollar bill for um whatever it is, like 10 or for $1 billion?" And you're like, "Hell yeah, I do. That's one of a kind." So it's really
Yeah.
strange, like to exchange one Satoshi for 1 billion Satoshis is kind of strange, but people are strange. So yeah, so that's what's going on. And the just one more interesting thing is that the person who owns that kind of image that's permanently inscribed on the blockchain, they can't actually take it down or move it or anything like that. They can move the one Satoshi around, like you can move any Bitcoin around, but the image is kind of seared into that block forever. Um,
Mm. Okay,
so
so you've got a bit of information on a Satoshi, and that information is written into the blockchain, and therefore you can never actually change it because it's on the blockchain and it can't be changed. But you can move the
yeah,
actual Satoshi around. You can move the sat around.
yeah, and that kind of tells you where the original data is. I think I'm not sure if it reinscribes the photo every time that transaction is, every time that sat is moved, but or if it just points you to um, where the original image was kind of imprinted, like way back 10 years ago. That's where
So,
the image was.
all right, cool. Then, yeah, I mean, so basically that means the entire Bitcoin network can be changed into whatever 21 trillion NFTs or however many sats there are on,
Yeah,
in the history of Bitcoin when it's
yeah.
all
So
mined.
that's right. It's just the block space. So there's 4 MB available, which isn't much. It's like an MP3 size or whatever. Um, So basically, everyone when they're paying their transaction fees for Bitcoin, they're just bidding for those people to chisel for them, um, and whoever pays the most gets on the block. If you don't really care, you might say, "Ah, just fit me in whenever," and it might happen in 2 days later that you get put on the block, or you pay, "No, I want this cent right away. Here's a bunch of cash. Put me first." And the miners will go, "Yeah, sure," and it's just a free market like that. So there was all
Mm.
these kind of, I was saying earlier about the factions. There's all these people like, no, Bitcoin's just for money. You shouldn't be able to do anything else with that 4 MB space. That 4 MB should just be filled up with transactions, valid monetary exchanges or whatever. It shouldn't be filled up with JPEGs. Um, but I mean, what do you think about that? Like, should it? Do you think one should be preferred over the other?
I don't know. I mean, the original purpose of Bitcoin was to be a way of peer-to-peer to trade, sort of replacing the potential or replacing the fiat system. So if it is getting taken up with data, which isn't that, then maybe that could degrade the network, not in terms of security, but in terms of fewer transactions being able to actually happen on it. I mean, if you get a million people all wanting to put whatever fart sounds on sats, then what else can, I mean, are those sats I don't know. Like, I'm a little bit confused about it, to be honest. Like, I mean, obviously those sats are still going to have a monetary value, but they're going to have a monetary value with a fart sound attached to it too.
Yeah,
So I
it's
don't
true.
know. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess it could be cool. Like, you could have, like, you know, I don't know. Like, you could have art collections or music collections, so you can have a monetary value in all this actual sat, the value of the sat, and then the monetary value of whatever's actually on it as well. Or you can say, hey, I've got $1,000 of sats, and I've also got a freaking cool music library as well because of all the songs that are on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but how do you view it though? You know, like, obviously there's OpenSea, the most traditional NFT, you know, sort of marketplace where you can buy and sell. How do you get a Bitcoin NFT, and how do you see it once you've got it?
It's pretty technical, I think. I mean, you have to set up a full node to start with to mint one and to receive or to transfer them, I think. Otherwise, it just sends the SAT without the attached info. But again, I'm not fully up on that part. Um, I think like going back to what you said about the monkey picture kind of pushing out all of the genuine transactions. It's kind of like, well, who gets to gatekeep what's a genuine transaction? Because the kind of argument could be framed like, oh, this guy doing his JPEG means that all these people in Argentina can't like buy Bitcoin and escape hyperinflation, like what's going on right now. And that's
Mm.
bad. But then if I buy like a 1960s Batman costume or something with Bitcoin, it's a monetary transaction. But am I still blocking out those guys in Argentina and therefore should I not be transacting? It's like all of a
Yeah,
sudden it's like, well, who's the gatekeeper? And it's like the only way to do this, even though it gets a bit messy, the only way to do this is just to have complete, like, you just can't stop anyone doing anything. Just if you've got the money, you can do the get on the block.
and yeah, I get your point. And like, technically, even if you wanted to stop on someone doing it, could you even do that anyway? I guess,
No,
yeah, you couldn't. So it doesn't
no,
matter whether it's yeah, it's just there. Okay.
yeah. Um, So, but what, like, there's a phrase in Bitcoin, everything's good for Bitcoin, and it's kind of true with this. So, what happened was fees spiked heaps. The miners were making heaps of money. The transactions were all backed up, and but what happens is that just it forces people to start developing layer two stuff like Lightning and other protocols on top, not protocols, other layers on top of Bitcoin to make it cheaper. Because ultimately, if it does get adopted you know, globally, then we're not going to be transacting on, you're not going to be buying a coffee on layer one because the transaction fees will be like thousands and thousands of dollars, whatever. It'd just be large settlements going on, like billions of dollars moving around and or
Mm.
billions of Bitcoin, whatever, worth of Bitcoin. So it just pushes development. It's like, all right, well, they're going to clog up the chain with monkey pictures and farts and stuff, and we've got to like get above it or pay more. Um, So I don't know.
So
It's
that's good for
interesting
it.
watching it all. Yeah, so it's good for it in the end. It's like it's just more battle scars, and then it comes out better afterwards.
And how far along is it all now? Like, is
There's
this?
millions of inscriptions done already.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So there's some cool use cases like because yeah, it does seem dumb, but there's other things you can do, like for example, putting like government leaked documents or something, inscribe them on the blockchain, and then they'll never ever be able to be taken down.
Mm,
Or like putting the Bible on there or newspaper articles or like we don't know if this thing is true, but we know that it was put on there on this date and that's that, and no one can change that. And so you could put your will on there or something like that, or
mm,
um, someone put on 3D, like 3D printed gun blueprints.
mm.
So it's like no matter what, anyone in the world can access the 3D gun printer and like create guns to protect themselves in some kind of revolution or whatever, like it's like that information is now it can't be banned.
And how would
Which
you? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of cool. I like the idea of, especially the leaking stuff. You know, it's just like, hey, government, you stuffed up. We proved it, and now it's proven forever. You know, it'd probably make
yeah,
them a little bit more.
can't smother this. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit more accountable to themselves. But how do
Yeah.
you actually access this information? Like if I wanted to go and look at a picture or read a book that's been inscribed, how do I actually do that? If you know.
There's I don't know because I haven't done it, but I just know that you just need to sort of use this open source software that they've written, um, that enables you to sort of access whatever the document is. So yeah, I'm not too sure. Like I've been thinking, initially I was just totally against it, and now I'm just like, whatever. Like if this breaks Bitcoin, then I'd rather find out now than in 10 years. Like, and of course it didn't break Bitcoin, it just pushed the prices up for transactions, which is exactly what it's meant to do. So yeah, it's just sort of just absorbed it all, and then it all sort of backed off a bit, and um yeah, so I'm not sure of the implications, but I think all of that kind of immutable stuff is quite a cool idea in
Mm,
in a world of like increasing censorship and changing the past and rewriting books and things like that to fit in with cultural norms of today and stuff. Like we need to
mm.
preserve this stuff. I think that's quite cool.
And
So
because I was just
go on.
thinking too, well, why couldn't you do that just with a normal NFT? But of course, with a normal NFT, because it's a thing that you hold, it's a non-fungible token. You can send it to a dead address where you can never access it again. So if you did have all this private leaked information on an NFT and then you just sent it to a dead wallet, then all that information's gone. Because
Yeah.
nobody holds the keys to those wallets. But with this, because it's actually written on the blockchain, then it's there for as long as that blockchain exists.
Um, this is immutable. Like it's kind of like a hard drive that's all over the world and you can write on the hard drive, and it's like, you never have to back up that hard drive. It's just permanent.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, so I think people should maybe, if they're interested, check it out, and you could inscribe whatever picture, document, put it on there now while it's reasonably cheap to do so, and kind of get in the history books of the time chain. Um, and
mm,
so I think it's funny that because like Pompeii, that city or village in
mm,
Rome that got buried by Mount Vesuvius, and then they
mm,
uncovered it to show all the people kind of covered with the ash and stuff, and they're on those like there's all graffiti on the walls, and it's like literally dick pics and things like that, and it's just uncovering these things from 2,000 years ago, and it's like, humans, humans get a human, we're still doing the same thing on the blockchain now, like just dumb photos or whatever, dumb ideas just for a laugh, and
Well, there was all dick pics in Pompeii, like chiseled in, or like
just graffitied on the wall that were preserved by the ash.
oh, rightio.
So
Yeah,
now
yeah. I
they're
guess
still there.
humans are just humans. It's just a funny
Yeah,
thing to do, isn't it?
yeah,
And now we're doing it on the blockchain.
yeah, yeah. So Um, yeah, I mean, it's sort of created this huge wave of fee spikes and all these arguments, and it's pushing layer two development. So ultimately, it's a good thing, and all these new nodes are being spun up for people that want to inscribe on the blockchain, because you have to have a full node to do it. So ultimately, it's really good for the network, but
Mm.
um, a lot of people don't think that at all. They're really annoyed about it, and
Yeah, what
but
can they
it's
do?
just have to accept there's nothing you can do about it. It's an open protocol. It's a public utility.
Yeah,
If it
it's
if
like
it fits protocol
it
rules, go for it.
yeah, and
Yeah,
this is the reason why you like Bitcoin. It's for specifically this reason. Nobody has any control over it. So don't start whinging
yeah,
now.
yeah,
Oh, I want it to be open, but only my form of open. So,
yeah. And then we're all
yeah.
like, because the block size was a few years ago where they wanted to increase the size of those blocks, like increase the size of the thing so you can put more inscriptions on it. And that's what hard forked into Bitcoin Cash and things like that because they
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
bigger blocks. But the but they just no, we're keeping it the same. And now in the last few months, no, we need bigger blocks again. And it's like, really, guys, like we're gonna really like consider like interfering with the protocol, like when this tiny little blip comes up, and it's like the whole purpose of this idea is to stop humans interfering, and that's a really good thing. It's like, no, the whole point of this is so no one can mess with the code. We're just going to keep it the same thing so we all know what we're working with. Like, no, change it. We need to change it to accommodate this. Like, no, 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 no. You're the, Bitcoin exists to stop people like you doing that. So yeah, I don't know. It's just fun to watch all this stuff unfold and the arguments and the fighting and see what happens. And
Yeah. And also,
it's
it's kind of funny too that, all this massive potential with things inscribed for all eternity and all that stuff, and it's fart sounds and dick pics. Great. Thanks, humans.